Hi guys, in this video we're going to make a cute little Valentine's cake. Now it's quite a simple design with a little Eiffel Tower and a bow. So I've already iced my cake in fondant ready to use. Now I do have a video on icing cakes which you can find on the link on the screen. So I'm just starting with some pink luster dust. So this one's the rainbow dust, but I'll put links to the things that I use in the description box below the video. So I'm just going to use quite a large brush, keeping it dry, and I'm just going to dab the luster dust onto my brush, dabbing excess off onto the kitchen towel that I've got down. Now I've put it on a separate board, my cake, because I find it quite difficult to get the luster dust off the work surface sometimes that I've been using. Now try and work it more into the bottom of the cake so that it's a deeper colour at the bottom and it gradually come up and get a little bit paler, and do that all the way around the cake. Now I've just got a slightly darker pink shade now that I'm going to use more around the bottom just to deepen the colour at the very bottom. So try and go quite solid with that all the way around that edge. So I'm now going to lift my cake and place it onto the board. Now I've covered my board in fondant, so I tend to just put a splash of water on the fondant and I find my cake sticks, but some people like to put a dollop of buttercream or royal icing on to stick it in place. So I've now got a length of ribbon. I've got quite a thick ribbon here, and I've just measured it so it fits around the circumference of the cake. Now I've got some double-sided sticky tape. I'm just going to put a little bit on each end of the ribbon, and I'm just going to fold the ribbon slightly either end to narrow it. It's not an essential part, you don't have to do this bit if you're not too bothered about this. Now for mine, I've used a pin to attach the ribbon. You can use royal icing to stick it in place. Now you'd never put a pin directly into the cake, but my cake is actually on a cake drum. Before I iced it, it's on quite a thick cake drum. So when I push this pin into the bottom, it will actually be going into the cake drum and not the actual cake. So just wrap that round, overlap the two thinner ends and push the pin through the two. So I'm now going to take the same ribbon again, or the same thickness of ribbon, and what I'm going to do this time is just tie a bow with it. Now I find it a bit tricky to tie the bows, so sometimes I have to start with a longer piece of ribbon than I actually need, and then once I've got it into the bow, I'll just trim the little extra bits off the ends of the bow once I'm done. So once you've made your bow, either stick it on again with a pin. If it's a pin, make sure it goes through the board, or with a little bit of royal icing to just stick it in place. So now for the little Eiffel Tower, we're going to use some modelling paste. I've just got some Renshaws in white here. I'm going to roll it out reasonably thin, and I'm going to cut a very rough sort of triangle / Eiffel Tower shape out. Don't make it too tall unless you want it to come over the top of the cake. I don't want mine to be as tall as my cake, so I'm going to keep it quite small. And now I'm going to paint on. If you prefer, you can use edible pens. I just prefer painting rather than using the pens. Sometimes I find if my icing hasn't dried, the pen can indent into the surface of the modelling paste and fondant. So I've just got a shadow grey one, and we're just going to paint on for a little basic style Eiffel Tower now, so we're not going to go into too much detail with it. You might find it easier to have a little image of the Eiffel Tower in front of you for when you're painting. And before it's had a chance to dry, I'm going to trim down the edge just a little bit, taking just a small amount of white off around those edges. Just be careful not to smudge what you've painted. So now I've got a pale pink. Just going to roll this out. It's a little bit thicker than what I've had the icing for the Eiffel Tower, and I'm just going to cut out some different sized love hearts. And using the pink dust we were using earlier, I'm just dusting a bit of the pink around the edges of the love hearts, giving them a bit of shading. Now I'm going to attach this to my cake. You can wait while it's dried. If you're like me and you're really impatient, you're going to stick it on while it's still wet and probably smudge the paint a little bit like I have done. For this, to be honest, I quite liked it a little bit smudged, even though it wasn't on purpose. And then I'm just going to stick the hearts in place. Again, you can use a dollop of water or a bit of royal icing to stick these on. So I'm just going to run my paintbrush through the Eiffel Tower, just any bits that were too damaged by my fingerprints, I'll just brush back in. And lastly, I'm just going to place a ribbon around my board. Make sure it's the same thickness as your cake drum. And I'm just pinning mine in place at the back with a pin, but you can use a double-sided sticky tape to stick it to the board as well. So that's it finished, and you can put whatever you want on top of the cake. I've put a bride and groom on one of mine. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video and would like to see more, please click on the images of the other videos suggested. Also, please do subscribe to my channel using the button at the bottom right hand corner of the screen. You can also visit my cake website and my Facebook page to see more cakes and ideas.